is like is something like how it connects with the idea maze is the idea by Stephen Wolfram of computational irreducibility, which basically means that sometimes you can't you can't have the shortcut. You just have to go through the idea maze. Basically, you just can't do something like you just enter the idea maze and somehow I don't know, you fly over it and you just land at the exit and you're like, ta-da, I'm here,
Hello, welcome back to Mtambo's Desk, a weekly podcast covering deep conversations on technology, philosophy, complex science, and cryptocurrency. My name is Jakub Mtambo, and the following is a conversation with Jakub Simek, a co-founder of Wezesha DAO and an author of Wisdom Enterprising. In today's episode, I'll be talking with Jakub Simek about his article on Idea Maze and the Daily Balajism series. And now, dear friends, here is Jakub Simek. So let's start with maybe you can explain what is the idea maze concept and how it is used to access early stage founders.
Yeah, so the idea maze is a concept by Balajisms. He was teaching that concept at the Coursera course Startup Engineering back in 2013. And Andreessen Horowitz, kind of a legendary or important venture capital firm, uses it regularly. So the concept, it's what it sounds. It's like a metaphor of a maze. So where you can easily get lost. So it's not enough to know just where the entrance is, but to know all the dead ends, all the traps of your industry. So it's kind of like a bird eye view of your industry, of your competition, and also importantly of the history of that industry and why many things failed there. And it takes time to go through the idea maze and to survive, but you need to do a lot of strategic thinking to remain competitive and to remain alive. So Balaji talks about, or just to quote him, anyone can point out the entrance to the maze, but few can think through all the branches.
So if I got it right, one of the maybe key reason why the idea maze is so effective is that it provides a realistic simulation of the challenges and obstacles that founders are likely to encounter as they try to bring their ideas into fruition. And this information can be invaluable for investors as they make a decision about whether to invest in a particular founder or an idea, right?
Yeah, I mean, it's a useful concept, but it's basically it's counterintuitive maybe because it's usually, if you have a startup, it means you have to like fail fast or you have to succeed fast or something. But the idea maze concept implies actually the opposite, that if you have like a 20-year-old something founder, usually, or if it's like someone like Palmer Luckey, the founder of Oculus Quest, a VR kit that he sold to Facebook for, I don't know, it's 2 billion or something, but it was more than $1 billion. And what you find with this type of founders is that they start very, very early. So like in their teens, like maybe when they are 13, they're like gaming, they are gamers, and they start tinkering with something like a VR precursor to a VR kit, and they just like do it in, I don't know, in their basement, or he said he was working on it in a trailer. So, and it takes years of tinkering, of research, of dead ends. And then, well, basically it means like when you are, I don't know, 22 and you approach this venture capital firm, and they have this concept of idea maze, then they are looking for someone who was actually, who was working with that idea maybe since he or she was like 15, 13 or something like that, yeah.
Mhm.
So that's one useful thing, that it's like counterintuitive compared to like how normal. How would you think about startups, that you need to like be really fast and scale fast?
Oh, well, and can the idea maze concept be applied to assess a company's progress in implementing new technology?
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely yes, because I'm just borrowing another concept by I have to forget the name, but it's like the research is not the development is not research, or research is not development. So basically, you can like do a lot of like fast, like rapid prototyping kind of things, where you can cheaply find out if actually this branch of the decision tree, or this idea that you think was working, doesn't work. So you can research it, but like to develop a product that is actually useful for customers takes a longer time. So yeah, probably you can measure it through how fast you can deliver various prototypes, and how what is the rate of learning, probably. Yeah, that would be like one way. If you have this concept of the idea maze, maybe you want people to figure out many various branches and various like ways how to how to progress through the maze. Yeah.
Okay. So, and how does the concept of tech tree resolve the tension between technological determinist and a great man theories of history?
Okay, that's like a related idea of Balajisms. He talks about tech trees. So it's like technology tree. That's like a tool or a concept from actually the game called Civilization. And but if it is what it sounds, it's like you have like a technology tree, like okay, this technology is connected to that technology and relies on that technology. It's something like an innovation supply chain. uh, and uh, uh, and basically the great founder or great man theory of history is like basically that you have someone like Satoshi Nakamoto, who came up with the Bitcoin, and thanks to him or her or them, we
Okay.
have we have yeah, we have all these cryptocurrencies today. So he was like the great founder, or and nobody yeah. And sometimes you have these kind of founders, and sometimes you have like a curious situation where you have like a Newton Leibniz moment. Biology talks about it as well, and you have like the same innovation or the same discovery, like a calculus, like a 1 year or very shortly apart from each other. So like they're like, one guy, it's called Leibniz, the other one is Newton, and they figure out the same thing. And this is more like a deterministic, or meaning like, okay, maybe this is the right time. It was like the time was ripe for the discovery to appear, because many people were working on it. And so it's something like a counterfactual impact. That's basically what would have happened otherwise. Would Bitcoin be here or something like Bitcoin if Satoshi Nakamoto didn't exist or something? And probably it would take years or decades. It's not also obvious, because if there are like three people that come or two people or 10 people working on the same kind of domain, and they're using similar technology and similar tools, and you know that they're kind of like competing with each other, maybe 1,000 or 10,000 people. So then the counterfactual impact is very low, because you have like one person against, let's say, 9,999, and so your individual impact is quite low. But if you have like just like one person working on a very like neglected topic and important problem, important and neglected problem, then the counterfactual impact becomes suddenly quite big, especially if the problem suddenly becomes solvable thanks to a specific technology that wasn't actually wasn't existing before. So I don't know, there were like some specific technologies in cryptography or some like algorithms or something that appeared in 2001, and we got like 2009 Bitcoin. Okay, so it took like maybe 8 years to but if the question is could have there been a Bitcoin in 1991, then probably not, you know. So yeah, maybe it could have been like a few years earlier. And the question is if we would get a Bitcoin like let's say in 2013 instead of 2009, which is like 4 years difference, which is actually quite a big impact. Anyway, you can measure impact also how by the time delay. You know, like for example, Balaji talks a lot about FDA, like blocking innovations in longevity in healthcare. So imagine if you have if it takes 10 years to approve a new medicine, and if it took only like 1 year, so like so these all these 9 years, that's the difference, that's the counterfactual impact or the impact. Like imagine how many people could have been saved, like how many lives if it's like a life-saving medicine. So that's like the impact, and that's the negative impact in this case, that it's like on the head of the FDA. So like of course if you speed up some innovation, that's also impact. But in case of Bitcoin, probably it wouldn't happen because it's kind of there are a lot of like weird kind of ways how the Bitcoin inverted the premises. So it's, for example, public, you know, like it's public blockchain, and it's like deflationary. And before people thought like, okay, inflation, actually mild inflation is good. So it's not really that obvious that someone else than Satoshi would have come with like such a interesting and sophisticated design for a cryptocurrency. That was the first cryptocurrency. So I think he is like the great founder or great man or woman of of history. Like this is this theory, like the great founder theory of history. And then the deterministic determinism theory of innovation or something of history is like it was bound to happen, but it means because the technology was ripe and it was saturated, that the time was ripe for this technology to arise. Yeah.
And maybe how does the prime number maze relate to Balajisms belief system?
That's a kind of maybe related concept just because it sounds similar. Yeah, like prime number maze and idea maze. But it's even like a bit more abstract, meaning like you can teach a rat, that's like just paraphrasing Balaji, you can teach a rat or a mouse to like to escape from the maze, like based on, I don't know, like all the numbers or something like that, like some simple kind of algorithm. But you can't teach a rat to escape a prime number maze, you know, like it's just too abstract for the rat to comprehend. And something similar is also true for humans, that yeah, I mean, there's some topics and some ideas that we just like don't comprehend yet. We either don't notice them, because prime numbers, like, okay, that's like kind of simple pattern, but it's like quite abstract. So maybe there are like some patterns like this, or we just are not sophisticated or don't have enough knowledge or tools to comprehend the physics around us so the question is like is something like how it connects with the idea maze is the idea by Stephen Wolfram of computational irreducibility, which basically means that sometimes you can't you can't have the shortcut. You just have to go through the idea maze. Basically, you just can't do something like you just enter the idea maze and somehow I don't know, you fly over it and you just land at the exit and you're like, ta-da, I'm here, but you have to just like do the painful process of basically living and going through all the obstacles and difficulties, and it's called computational irreducibility. And Stephen Wolfram has proven it through something called cellular automata. And it's basically like some simpler rules that create like incredibly complex patterns, like the cellular automata. And you can't predict how those patterns will look down the line. You just have to run the experiment. So, and this is something similar. It's kind of like how I feel these two concepts of idea maze and prime number maze relate. So it's basically you have to go through the maze. It's like you can't reduce it just to some trick of like, tada, I'm here, like you enter and suddenly you fly and you exit, but you have to go through the maze.
And so in what ways can also the vector theory of change be used to map innovation and progress in the idea maze?
Okay, this is maybe similar to this like rate of learning. Like maybe if you manage to produce like, let's say 10 prototypes a month and suddenly you speed up to 20 or to 100 prototypes a month, you speed up your cadence of so this is like, how can you speed your rate of learning? Okay, that's one thing. And how is okay, vector theory of change. This is the concept of Dave Snowden. He came up with this framework called Canavan. It has a funny spelling because it's Welsh, but it's anyhow, it's like beyond the scope of this discussion, but it's like how the complicated, complex, chaotic and obvious systems are different, like, or the domains of life are different. Like, let's say if you are driving on the left in Kenya and on the right in Slovakia, that's like kind of like an obvious domain, because like it's just a simpler rule and you can follow it. And if it's something like a surgery, then it's like a complicated domain. You have to have specialist training, but it's like there are good practices. So for driving, it's best practices. It's best practice, just one, drive on the left in Kenya and on the right in Slovakia. For complicated systems, it's it's a good practice. There is no one single best practice, but there are many good practices. But usually you have to get a like multi-year training, like some apprenticeship process, like to become a doctor. It's not just about theory, but it's also about practice and specified settings, like in a lab or in a surgical theater, or how you call it. Okay, but then you have like not chaotic, but you have a complex domain, and this is where startups operate, where you have like competing hypotheses of what actually could work. And how can you find out? You can't just ask an expert, because usually those are like, I don't know, if you ask an expert, will Bitcoin work? They will tell you that you are dumb, or like you come to an expert at IMF and you are like, I'm starting a new currency. Will you advise me? They're like, oh, go away, kid. Like you're stupid. So what you have to do is like you have to run the experiment, and there are competing hypotheses, meaning like they're opposite views, and which view will win? Okay, the view that will be proven the most successful in the marketplace, not just of ideas, but in a real marketplace. Like, will the customers buy into it, adopt it, share it, like it, share it with friends? And so this is like the complex domain where the startups are, and you have also chaotic domain, and Dave Snowden explains it as a domain where there are no constraints. It's very just temporal. It's very like short lived, but suddenly the constraints are lifted and you have a chaotic domain. And usually it's something like during some kind of boot camp or during some kind of hackathon. For example, you don't like the food is provided and you can work like, I don't know, your kids are back at home and you are suddenly just with your fellow, I don't know, startuppers or something, and you can suddenly work 20 hours or something. So that's like the constraints are removed, and you can plunge into chaos temporarily and go back to the complex domain and back and forth. And this is how the innovation might happen. And the theory, the vector theory of change, basically means that you don't have a set goal. Like I want to create something like a digital dollar or something, but you are testing and trying, and basically you are trying to move towards some kind of like goal, but you don't know actually how to get there. You have to like run the experiments through the idea maze. Yeah, and basically Dave Snowden has this metaphor of like you basically want to map the micro narratives of, let's say, your customers or different stakeholders, and basically want to get like more good stories like these and less bad stories like those. So let's say you would, yeah, something like bad stories would be like I'm experiencing counseling or deplatforming or hyperinflation or limits on withdrawals from ATMs or something like that. And the good stories are like I don't know, I'm able to save in some asset or a currency that is deflationary, or I'm able to provide for my family thanks to this saving, or I was able to buy a car or something like that. And so these are the good stories, and basically the vector theory of change, which is quite different from like the normal theory of change, where you have goals, you have like some results, you have indicators, you have, I don't know, activities and this and that. But the vector theory of change basically is based on these micro narratives. Like you want to have more good stories like these and less bad stories like those. So it's kind of bit connected. Okay, basically this is like just like I'm connecting various ideas to the idea maze there in this short article.
Mm-hmm. And so can also wildly mapping be used to build tech trees that visualize the innovation supply chain?
Yeah. So okay, so the tech trees, it's something like this technology is connected to that technology, and this connection is connected to that, and this is something that is like and this is the area that nobody is working on or something like that. And wordly mapping, there was actually a nice tool, but I couldn't find it online. It's like, it sounds like it doesn't work yet anymore or something, but you can Google it. The guy is called Simon Wordley, and like wordly mapping is nice because it has like two dimensions. So one is like the innovation supply chain, or like supply chain of, like, let's say this product needs this product and this product needs this product, and something it's like a chain of needs.
Mm-hmm.
That's like vertical, and the horizontal is like progress over time. So we have something like which is really new, like a concept stage, or he called it the genesis stage, but it could be concept stage. Then you have like a custom build stage. So when you build it, because nobody has built it before, I don't know, like let's say Elon Musk built the Tesla Roadster, so it's like a custom made kind of like the first prototype or something, or it's just like, yeah, there are not many products like this, so you build it custom, custom build yourself. And then a next stage is product and service stage, which is like it's already a standardized product. You can buy it, like you can order it on Amazon or something. And the last stage is commodity and slash utility. So it's like you are paying your bills for electricity, and you are not thinking about electricity as being something innovative. But it's just a utility. Yeah, it's like water, electricity, internet, maybe even soon maybe mobile broadband or like Starlink or something like that. It's basically the utility. It's like, I don't know, commodities like rice. You don't think about like Sukuma wiki or like maize flour or I don't know chapati or something innovative, because it's like you know, like corn, let's say, or wheat is like commodity. Yeah. So but back then, the first stage is like genesis or concept stage, where it's like super new, and your idea to win in the market is like how fast you can move from the concept stage to the commodity stage, and then leverage it as a commodity. If it becomes commodity, let's say you want to open source it and you want to create a platform, like so everybody uses it, like Amazon Web Services, so something like that, you know, like then you it as something super innovative, and you want to move it as quickly as possible to the commodity stage or utility stage, if it's a service, like utility stage, and then you open source it, or you use maybe even you let your competition to use it, and then suddenly you have like a market advantage or something, like, or Google, I don't know, Google search, you become like a monopoly or something. And then you use that monopoly power or that platform to then go back again to the genesis stage with some other products, and to repeat the cycle as fast as possible. It's like a yeah, that's wordly mapping, and it could be used for this idea of tech trees that Balaji talks a lot about.
Since you also mentioned about the computational reducibility, does it relate to the prime number maze concept?
Yeah, I think so. I think so, because yeah, it relates to the idea maze and also to the prime number maze. And the idea is that computational irreducibility means that you just have to run the computation. You just have to go step by step by step. You can't figure out like what will happen on the step 100. You can actually watch it if you Google like cellular automata, Stephen Wolfram, or computational irreducibility, Stephen Wolfram, and you can get like some nice visuals, like how does it look. You know, it's yeah, one of the related kind of thing is like called game of life or something, but basically you can't figure out like what will happen in the, let's say, 5 minutes from now, or like from or in the step 100 or something. You just have to run it. So that's the idea. You can't yeah, you can find some cheat or some shortcut in many areas, especially this kind of chaotic not chaotic, sorry, complex domain where there are competing hypotheses. It's just not enough to, let's say, okay, let's call someone at IMF to resolve the issue by providing her or his opinion, like smart opinion. You just have to run the experiment, you know. If somebody told, like, okay, if the Satoshi was like, oh man, I mean, I want to come up with this cryptocurrency, but I'm not smart enough, so maybe I just ask someone at the World Bank or IMF, and they say, should I do it or should I not? And they said, okay, you know, and I decide based on them. But no, you know, it's like you can't ask the expert in this complex domain, because they're competing hypothesis even by experts and by smart people. You just have to run the experiment, and you find out if it works or not by running it. It's just like not just by or asking someone else.
Mm-hmm. And how fast do or how do fast ODA loops and grid play a role in a founder's ability to navigate the idea maze?
So OODA loop is like orient, observe, decide, act. So it's like originally from, like, it was some pilot who came up with it, but it's basically yeah, that's what it sounds. And you want to well, get inside of OODA loop of your opponent, or you want to have a faster OODA loops. Maybe well, it means, for example, producing more prototypes than your competition, for example. And so it's like, yeah, this is the circle of like, you first observe, then you orient yourself like what you should do, then you should actually decide, and then you should act upon that decision, and then you close the loop, and then again you are in like orient, observe, orient, decide, act. And so you if you have faster OODA loops than your competition, you have the advantage. So that's kind of like again just connecting it with these tech trees, wordly mapping, complexity, yeah, kind of idea. So we are still, if you are like a startup working on some novel thing that is like in this concept stage or genesis stage, some innovation, you just have to do many experiments. That's the basic idea. And the OODA loop is like a nice concept as well. Like yeah, this kind of like observe, orient, orient, observe, no, observe, orient, decide, act. Yes. Loops. Yeah.
Okay, and so in what ways do dead ends encountered in the idea maze contribute to a founder's understanding and implementation of an idea?
Yeah, I mean the dead end could happen because the technology is not ready yet. You know, something like, I don't know. I mean, imagine like it would be great if you could create the DAOs on a mobile phone, you know, or you could like do like loads of Web3 on mobile phone. Let's say like because let's say in Africa there are loads of people who have mobile phones, but maybe not everybody has a laptop. Not just like, or it's not just about Africa, but you know, or the connectivity is not there, or like, yeah, it's just like it's easier to, because mobile phone got or became a convergence device, you know, like for all these like camera, recorder, video, I don't know, player, all these like gadgets got into mobile phone. So let's say if you would manage to get some Web3 running on a mobile phone, suddenly like a new door opens, and you can like, I don't know, you can succeed with many products or services. I mean, but let's say you come up, you realize that actually you hit a dead end because something happened, like maybe the technology you relied on didn't work, or it wasn't ready yet. You know, I don't know, like something like with 3D printing. I mean, it's for example. 3D printing, there were some copyright issues, or I mean, sorry, IP, like intellectual property issues. Therefore, the industry was like for decades. It actually, the 3D printing existed for decades, but it was like it had intellectual property, so it was like. Yeah, it didn't develop fully, but there was this big boom after these patents ended. So it was patented, sorry. Yeah, and these patents ended, and so you had this boom in startups. But suddenly, I don't know, like what and or why, but it's been like 15 years or and lots of promises, but you still don't have the desktop like 3D printers. Like not everybody. Yeah, we had them in Kenya in 2015, and we were testing them and stuff. But it's still not like everybody has those at home. I don't have it at home. I don't know. It's either the price or maybe it's not as useful because you can buy something for very cheap that looks actually better because it's, I don't know, it's produced in China. But you had this moment in during COVID-19 pandemics. Then suddenly the supply chains broke, and you need some parts, let's say for lung ventilators or something, and suddenly those 3D printers were very handy, you know. So
Yeah.
like for this kind of situation. So. But I don't know. I honestly don't have the right answer. Like for example, in this case, like what is the why it seems like that industry got a hit dead end. So suddenly, I don't know. But it could be like either the technology is not cheap enough, mature enough, or there is not mass adoption for some reason. Maybe the UX is not good, or just people don't know. Maybe it's just very early still, sometimes it takes decades for a technology like AI, or for a technology to mature. Like AI was still, I don't know, it was like in 1960s or something. There were some innovations in AI, but until it matured, and we have like GPT-3 and chat GPT that you talked to me privately before this, that you are testing it now. So it took like a decade. So yeah, maybe sometimes the startup is just too early. It could be like Balaji mentions it a lot. I think it's mentions what was it? I don't know, Instacart, or no Instacart, but he mentioned something like, okay, before Uber there was a company, but I forgot the name. Zipcar, probably, I don't know, something, and it was just too early for that market, and then the Uber came and it became like 10 times or 100 times bigger than the previous startup, because maybe the technology wasn't there yet, or that the mobile mass adoption, maybe not so many people had mobile smartphones back then.
Yeah. Sometimes it's because of it's early stages of technology, but sometimes also readiness of the users or the consumer. Sometimes you might bring some idea which maybe they don't understand about it, and or they're not ready to use that idea. So it takes time. Also in terms of mass adoption, it's just the same as Bitcoin. It started 2009, but until now, it's when now you're seeing around 2020 when we can see like there was a little bit of mass adoption at a low level stages where we see crypto investors get into it, but still we have not seen mass adoption in crypto in terms of institution. Yes, some institution have gotten in, but we would like to see, say, many institutions getting into it. But yes, so I can say maybe technology sometimes takes time, but fortunately, it will.
Or sometimes you are too late. Just to give you a quick example of M-Pesa, so M-Pesa came up in Kenya in 2007. So you were super early into mobile banking, and you actually, as Kenyans, you invented mobile banking, right? And then it scaled actually even to Europe, like to Albania. There was M-Pesa in Albania. But probably it was a bit too late for M-Pesa back then. I don't know, maybe it was 2011, or I don't remember the year when it was introduced in Albania. But slowly people already got more and more people got something like smartphones or some kind of smartphones. And so probably it was just a bit too late. There was like a bit more competition, and also like more people were banked in Europe than in there were more unbanked people in Africa, so it was easier for M-Pesa, and also from a regulatory standpoint, I guess it was easier to penetrate these kind of African markets. So like probably there was this like dead end or the trapdoor or something. It could be like regulation. It could be also like the penetration of smartphones, that it was already like because M-Pesa worked on like those simple or dumb phones, not just smartphones. So it could be like some issues like this.
Yeah, true. Okay, and so in your opinion, how do mature technologies open new doors in the idea maze situation?
Sorry, can you repeat it?
Like, in your opinion, how do you think mature technologies open new doors in the idea maze?
Okay. Yeah, right. Okay, good question. So it's basically, yeah, it's the idea, the case with like a new technology stack, or that enabled Web2 companies, so like Facebook or Twitter or something to raise. So you had like some, like it's called LAMP stack.
LAMP
You have
stack.
like various like, yeah. I mean, it's one example that Balaji gives, but it's basically you have some kind of like front end and back end kind of technologies that enable this whole architecture, like model view controller. I think it's called. Balaji talks about it as well, but like this hub and spoke topology, that you have like some centralized servers and centralized databases, and you have then some like that's the hub, and then you have some spoke some clients and something, and then there will be new technologies that will enable Web3 companies. Like, I don't know, it's like, I think Balaji talks about it. It's like blockchain client kind of topology. So it's, like the Web 1 was like peer-to-peer, and then the Web 2 kind of became like centralized and like kind of like for-profit companies, and it had its pros. It was like it managed to scale internet, let's say, to billions of people, like Facebook. You got it like we got it like for free. Basically, but now you see also the downsides, like with the Twitter files and all the censorship and something. So it's basically, you find out that actually what like when you are DMing someone, it's actually not the private communication, because someone has access. It's like based on the architecture of how it is done. You are communicating on a server of someone else, of a different company. So, and then the Web3 architecture will enable like a completely different type of like blockchain client kind of company. I mean, protocols and services and stuff like that. So it's like from companies or Web 2 companies to Web 3 communities and protocols.
Okay,
but the technology is not mature yet, so I don't know, it will take a couple of years. I mean, we asked too, like we were coming up with something like this, using some blockchains or something for like student entrepreneurship or business ideas competitions back in 2017. It wasn't mature, but now in 2021 or 2022, it was much easier to, I don't know, you created like some token, you created the DAO, we created the DAO together, and this and that. It was like quite easy, but it's not mature yet. If anyone can do it on a mobile phone, or using some new device, I don't know, or like, let's say, if everyone can use it on a mobile phone, then it will be mature.
Yeah, it's true. And sometimes also the maturity of technology also is influenced by also regulators, the delay, of regulations based on a nation or a state, because every country has its own regulations. So sometimes, it's very slow to adopt that technology because they have to negotiate, for example, with that country in terms of regulation, so that you can explain to them about your technology and then they adapt it. So that's why we can see some features like, let's say, Twitter, blue Twitter, which is not available in some other countries, just available in the US. But so I think also regulation also affect the maturity also of technologies. Yeah. But
yeah,
okay.
and regulation and the harmonization of regulation is like the great evil, according, or the biggest problem to solve, according to Balaji. And it's also like the idea behind the network state, that sometimes it's literally probably easier to create a new network state than to reform the FDA or some like a global kind of like regulators that have a global reach, and they like harmonize the regulation for like, let's say, almost the whole world. So then in case of Kenya, it was kind of like a luck that not so many people had bank accounts. So there were large unbanked population, especially like the access to loans or something back in 2007 or 6 or something was like not as great, but it enabled M-Pesa to come up, but because let's say in Europe it wouldn't be possible for M-Pesa to start, probably because of regulation mostly.
Okay, so can the concept of the idea maze be applied to non-technical fields such as the arts or social sciences?
Yeah, I think it's like quite the general concept of like basically it's just like a metaphor of a maze that you enter a certain field, but you should just like you should figure out like what is the history of that area, or let's say your art or your domain. What is the competition? What were the failures? What were the experiments that didn't work out, and like what to expect, and like maybe somehow like come up with some kind of plan or strategy or like decision tree, like what you should do next. What is the like some kind of like a supply chain or something, like you need this to the okay, just maybe to paraphrase the wordly mapping as just like a tool, something that could be used like for these tech trees, or like instead of tech trees or combined with tech trees, like yeah. So for example, if you want to have a cup of tea, a nice Kenyan cup of tea, sometimes you need water, you need tea, and let's say you need some kettle, and and then and what the kettle needs, something is like, okay, you have tea, and the tea needs water, and the water needs kettle to boil, and the kettle to be hot needs fire, or needs electricity or something, or gas, and the gas needs, I don't know, all these utilities to run smoothly, or you need wood to set the fire or something like that. So it's like a supply chain of these needs, and something similar is like quite general. So for example, you could use wordly mapping for mapping culture. So if you can use wordly mapping, and you can search Twitter for these examples, like wordly mapping culture, and you can follow this guy Simon Wordley. And so basically, if you can map culture, or if you can map, I don't know, different areas like this, you can also map. It doesn't need to be just technical fields. It could be also like social science field, or arts, liberal arts. Yeah.
Okay, and so in what ways does the idea maze concept challenge traditional notions of innovation and progress? And maybe I can combine with another question: how does the idea maze concept differ from traditional business strategies and approaches to innovation?
Okay. Yeah. I mean, as maybe just going back to the beginning, I think the main difference is that it takes time, and it takes effort, and it takes the combination of like great effort, good timing. It takes good timing. Like sometimes you just can't become Uber because it's just the technology or the society is not ready. So, for example, like after COVID-19 pandemics, we had the cultural norms shifted, and you have like remote first. Many companies went like remote first, and it was like a social innovation or cultural innovation. And without that, many startups that, let's say, rely on this kind of environment of remote first, and they cater to these companies that want remote first, they wouldn't be able to operate. Or, yeah, I don't know, many things got bigger, like Netflix or something. People just spend more time online. But then maybe suddenly a few years later, or 1 year later, people got fed up with watching movies online. So then you had like also the tech stocks kind of tanked, and they had problems. So basically, yeah, that's it's kind of the timing is important. A lot of trials and errors, and a lot of like prototype or rapid prototyping is important, and grit is important, meaning like courage and perseverance of founders is important. That's important. So it's not just about the idea, but it's also about the execution, about the precise strategy, how to, I don't know, navigate around, let's say, some obstacles, like some regulation. Like if you are a PayPal, probably you need to know about KYC regulation. You need to know about scammers, like in your, that there are a lot of digital or email fraud scams. So if you are a PayPal coming up with like some digital transfers, you need to realize that actually there is this thing like know your customer, like KYC rules that you probably need to follow to make your service legal in these certain jurisdictions and so yeah.
Okay, so as we wrap up this conversation, in what ways does the idea maze concept prioritize exploration and implementation of an idea over immediate success and profitability?
Okay, so yeah, I mean, yeah, I mean, it's exploration first. It's like the research first and development later. Meaning, it takes time to find the product market fit. So product market fit, and it's like just maybe people need to get more comfortable with how long it actually takes. It could be like 5 years or up to 10 years. So it's not just like if you are expecting to be profitable right away. It's probably it's relate to another. Your question is a good one, and it's related to another concept of Balaji. It's like something the progress happens on a z-axis, but it also means like sometimes you have to go like he calls it like kitty corner or diagonal. So sometimes if you want to win in one area, you first have to win in another area that it's maybe easier to win. Like so, for example, Google couldn't compete with Microsoft directly head on, like let's say in Microsoft Office, like Microsoft would crush them, but they won in Google search, and they established like dominance, like a monopoly there, and it was like a cash cow for them. They earn lots of money, and until today they are earning so much money. Then they created this piggy bank or I don't know, this this pile of cash then to use for all these disruptive projects. And so then they disrupted the Microsoft later with with Google Docs. So but they didn't start with Google Docs immediately. So maybe this is all kind of related.
Mm-hmm. Okay, Jakub Simek, thank you very much for your time at Mtambo's Desk podcast.
Yeah, thank you, Duke. So it's pleasure. Let's do it again. It's my pleasure.
Okay, well, that brings us to the end of this episode. If you enjoyed listening to Mtambo's Desk podcast, please subscribe, give these episodes a thumbs up, and be sure to come back next week for another episode. Until then, this is Duke Mtambo, and don't forget to do good always.